Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today I will be showcasing one of the most versatile ships in EVE, the Stabber. So, Stabber is a Minmatar cruiser. It is the entry Minmatar cruiser that you can fly, and like most Minmatar cruisers and or platforms, it also tends to run projectile weapons. For this first iteration, I will be showcasing me doing some abyssals. So the Stabber, believe it or not, is a weird anomaly in the abyssal space kind of area of EVE, where you can dual tank fit it and rep fit it, where you can rep shields and armor. So it makes it a really good candidate to kind of play around and sort of learn how to run T1 abyssals. And this fit in particular can be found within the Abyssal Lurkers channel, so if you're not a part of that channel and are interested in doing abyssals, I highly recommend you join that channel. I will also be linking the fit in the description, so don't worry, as well as some links that are also in the Abyssal Lurkers channel, but again, for some reason, if you don't want to join it, I can kind of put those down there below in the description. So here I'm just kind of checking out local, and I see that safety is in my system. So running this filament is a little risky here. If you're not familiar with safety, these are high-sec gankers. They tend to follow orcas and or mining fleets and just gank them in high-sec. So they will also gank abyssal players because you do leave a trace. So basically, if you're in the system, you can kind of check out the kill board and you might see that a few abyssal players died. So just as a forewarning, if you do come to the system where I tend to do the abyssals, you might die. Perhaps. Funnily enough, in this particular room, I actually do end up having to use both of my reppers for some reason. I wasn't applying enough damage to really kill any of these Damaviks, which if you aren't familiar with the Damaviks, they're a Triglavian ship type platform, and they tend to spool up on damage, so needless to say, I basically wanted to clear out the Damaviks quickly, and I wasn't necessarily doing that. So I'm doing a poor job of showcasing the Stabber's capabilities, but maybe I'm also showcasing just how much you can tank, because I absolutely ended up tanking all three of these Damaviks and then ended up applying really well and kind of clearing this wave. I wouldn't say in record time, but fast enough. One of the sad parts about this is that I didn't realize they were repping each other until I kind of locked in and was like, oh, no wonder they're not dying. They're repping each other. So, for anybody else trying to attempt the T1 Abyssals or try to get your feet into them, I'd say go look at the cheat sheet. There is a cheat sheet that floats around for target prioritization, and I highly recommend reading that over. Otherwise, you might end up in a scenario like I did, where if you're not paying too close attention, you might end up losing your stabber, perhaps. So, there is one caveat I want to mention with running cruisers. Cruisers are slower than frigates, so just keep that in mind when you decide to take the leap and start doing T1s, and particularly want to do them in cruisers. You are going to be significantly slower than frigates and also destroyers, obviously, because the smaller the ship, the faster the propulsion takes you. The bigger the ship, the slower the propulsion takes you, right? It's just science. In this particular portion of the video, I end up showcasing once again why the dual rep system and anomaly is very, very well. I end up tanking this Phantasm clone for a while. He does apply super well to me. Remember, I am a cruiser, I'm slightly bigger. If I was probably in a destroyer or frigates, it would probably be higher for it to apply its damage to me just because of how small I am. But in this case, I'm a giant target and it is definitely destroying me with its hits. But don't panic. This is an alpha tune that doesn't necessarily have max skills, so if you're in an Omega character, you most likely have better skills than I do. So you're repping your webbing, your speed, it's all going to be better, obviously. Now, these are PvE fits. I do want to make sure that is clear to everyone. These fits will not work in a PvP environment. I do have some clips later down this video where I showcase myself PvPing in the stabber, of course, and those fits are, they're tailored. They're meant to be more, risky, more, damage on target as opposed to fighting NPCs, because although NPCs can be tricky and sometimes they can destroy your ship, players, depending on what they're flying, tend to either be slightly AFK or have a stronger ship than you, as we will see with both of the clips. It'll be not shocking that my stabber ends up dying in both instances, because you will see the ship types that are brought to challenge it. So part of the battle with PvP is making sure you have the right fit, but also knowing which fights you want to take. So, similarly to how I mentioned before, because the stabber is slightly slower than a destroyer or a frigate, I'm personally not taking the time to going and looting and destroying all these extractors and other biocaches. Just note that you do have the time to loot everything. I believe the max lockout for an abyssal is about 20 minutes. And as you can see at the start of this room, I am about halfway done through my timer. So you do have the ability to do full looting per room. I personally tend to do full looting in the last room only, but if you have better skills than I do and you can clear the rooms faster, I highly recommend doing full loot checks for each room and just trying to get your ISKs worth per filament. Each filament is worth around 28k, at least to Ingita, and I get about 1 million to 6 million per T1, so I'm not really too bothered by wanting to loot everything. But if you are in a crunch for ISK, I highly recommend doing full sweeps of each particular room, just because you are leaving ISK on the table that is, you know, kind of free because all these ships are specialized and meant to do this. But that's just my own take and what I did in this video. So if you want to earn more, definitely do not follow what I did in this video.
Our module has run out of charges.
Alright, so after a hard day's work of grinding the abyssals and or mines, I do like to PvP, as some might say I don't, but I decided to filament. This is what we call a filament roam in null security space, but even in high sec, low sec, and wormhole players, they do tend to filament roam as well, potentially. And how a filament works is essentially you buy either a noise or signal. I don't know the nuances for each one, but they teleport you to a pseudo-random, and this is the exact definition in the filament itself. I'm being very pedantic here. Pseudo-random location in null security. So here I land in fraternity space, a known big block of New Eden. So I try finding my luck and seeing if I can nab anything with my stabber. And after a few minutes of looking, I got one. I got my first target here. I personally played this engagement very poorly. I didn't realize that the drones are all over me already, and that I probably needed to defang this particular ship. So I just end up whelping my stabber. Very unfortunate. Honestly, I don't even think this guy was there. GF'd in local, like always, and he didn't really respond. So my assumption is he probably had some auto-targeting kind of system in place, and he wasn't really at his computer. So I lost to someone that wasn't even there. In this next engagement, I showcase some of my hunting skills. I do end up finding another Ishtar ratting in a haven, and I decide to warp to it. But unfortunately, this person actually was active and was playing the game, and so when I end up landing, they are unfortunately warping out. That is kind of one of the downfalls of hunting solo with a stabber, is that you need a scepter most likely to catch stuff. Now, in this final clip, I am in fraternity staging, so obviously I am going to most likely get blobbed, but I think it'll not come to anyone's shock or surprise that instead of blobbing me, they actually decided to send in, dare I say, bargers. I immediately die, and that was kind of my adventure, kind of trying to PvP in a stabber. Oh, I do want to say that a stabber is a really great PvP ship when you are fighting things that are within your range. Unfortunately, Vargers and maybe even Ishtar solo are a little bit tough to crack, so unfortunately you might need some friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.